Check out this trade right here. I'm up over $4,000 in just 20 minutes, all because of one specific pattern I use to confirm super accurate entries, and it's right here. This pattern doesn't just help me find solid entries, it also allows me to risk a small amount for a high reward, just like this trade. I consistently find setups like this trading just 60 minutes each morning. In a minute, I'll break down this entire trade step by step, but first let me show you the exact pattern I use to confirm the trade entry and how you can consistently use it yourself. So what this pattern should look like when you are betting that the market is going to continue going lower is that it should have multiple bullish candles like you see here into a very large bearish candlestick. And the whole reason behind this and why it's important is it because it shows you a shift in momentum. There's a clear methodical move higher and then a clear massive break and switch of momentum to the downside. And this can really be the first domino of either continuing a trend lower, or if the market was coming up in an uptrend, it can be the first domino in switching to a downtrend. So either you can use it as a continuation pattern or as a reversal pattern. Now this is just kind of what it should show up and look like while you are, kind of at the drawing board. The reality of what this can look like sometimes is a little bit different. This is from an actual chart. What it can look like is the candles can still be kind of all over the place, but the idea is what you want to look for is kind of a clean methodical trend up. It's starting to kind of even some slowishness here, some dojis, that's totally okay. And then always you want to see a big switch in momentum. Well, one, because it happens in a big candlestick, that means there's an increase in momentum. So that means it's more likely that big players are coming in and this is gonna be the start of a big trend shift or a continuation with the major trend if this is just a pullback move. And it also takes out and is much larger than these previous candlesticks. This is kind of some keys to this pattern is that it takes out 3 to 5 of the previous candlesticks. That's the big key here, is that you want this candlestick to be much larger. And when you're confirming to use it is always wait for the candlestick to close and finish forming. You don't want to see a candlestick look like this and say, oh, it's showing a massive movement in momentum, I gotta get in now. Because as this candle is forming, it could move down a ton and you could be worried that it just continues lower, right? And you wanna get in quick, FOMO comes in, but instead you need to wait for it to close, because otherwise what it could happen is it could come down here and then it could come back up and it could make a candle that looks completely different. It could make something like this in the opposite direction where, the candlestick looks like this and instead you entered in, somewhere down here and now it looks really, really crappy. And at that point, the pattern hasn't actually finished forming, and so you need to wait for the candlestick to always finish forming. And so this pattern is called the 3-line strike pattern, and you can use it in either direction. You can use it in a bullish or bearish way that we just looked at. For bullish, it's literally just the same thing, just in the opposite. You have a couple candlesticks moving down, and then you have that big switch of momentum. Essentially like this, the same thing. There's clean, methodical move down. The market's kind of in a nice, chill downtrend, and then all of a sudden, boom, you have a massive switch of momentum. Just get in long right above this candlestick at the close, and I like to put my stop loss below that swing. That's kind of the key area to put it, just because if the market comes all the way back here, it's likely that it's gonna continue lower, and you just wanna cut your losses at that point. That's how I get those accurate entries for a high reward and low risk kind of setup. Now, some unimportant factors about this is, the candlesticks, like these ones, they're a lot more doji-like. They're not like this pattern. The main thing is what you're looking for is a loss of momentum or a clean, slow, methodical move of momentum, and then a massive switch. And then as well, another thing is you can see this low right here is actually lower than the candlestick right here. It doesn't matter if this main candlestick is the actual low or bottom. The main thing is, again, looking for that kind of slow methodical movement and then a massive switch in momentum. And you can see this in actually another pattern I have here is a trap. This is a perfect example right here of a really nice 3-line strike pattern where you can see the market went up here really, really consistently, and then boom, you have a massive switch in momentum. And what you want to do with these is you want to use them at key areas like resistance levels. You don't want to just be blindly using this by itself. You need to be coupling it with a couple other factors. Now, what I've been walking through here is a whole downloadable guide and PDF that you can get in the link in the description of this video or through this QR code. Okay, so now let's look at some real examples so you can actually take this to your own trading. So first off, here is a great example of using a 3-line strike for an entry with a couple of other patterns. Basically right here, this 3-line strike pattern that's happening right now is confirming a double top coming in. All I like to use these for are reversal trades. You can use them for continuation trades as well, but I like to use them for reversal trades. And you can see here, the market's come up and it's made one top, and then essentially you can see we have momentum, and then look at these multiple candlesticks right here. We start to slow down. You know, we've kind of come up here, right? There hasn't been any bearishness, and then all of a sudden, boom, we have a massive candlestick right here showing that switch in momentum. That, okay, you know, especially with being at this double top in that same area, you're essentially confirming that double top, which is even better and makes it more likely that this is a good area to enter in on a 3-line strike pattern. And so I like to enter in at the break of that low. This is trading a 1-minute chart. The candlesticks right after are pulling back slightly. And I actually think that is a even better confirmation if the market pulls back a little bit and then continues lower and it doesn't break the high of that 3-line strike pattern. So if I just zoom in a little bit more to let this kind of play out, I put in an entry here right as it breaks below that 3-line strike pattern, and then I put my stop up here above the double top. If the market comes up here and I'm wrong, just get out. You know, the idea of this is you are entering in really accurately at the highs, and you're looking for, you know, capturing a whole swing lower. And so just to kind of watch this trade played out, you can see from there, it kind of moved all the way lower and kind of hit a target that I was looking for more towards the lows. And so I closed up at about $600, and it gave a perfect signal at the highs to get in. And then from there, I was able to ride the swing lower and capture a really nice trade. Here's another example, and this is on the flip side, looking for a long. You can see clearly I'm looking at a support level here where the market's bounced once, twice. There was probably another bounce here before on the previous area in the chart that I was looking at. And so I'm already looking for the big picture of the market to come down here and bounce. And to accurately enter and confirm that the market's gonna bounce here is I looked for the market to make essentially it slowed down here, and then it had a strong bullish candlestick here formed, and I got in essentially as it was about to finish closing. I got in a couple seconds earlier, but I essentially got in as it created that 3-line strike pattern. And you can see here, it was actually a candlestick after the bottom here. It wasn't right away, but it was still showing me that switch in momentum. And it gave me an accurate entry to enter in at the bottom of the swing, have a tighter stop loss, and then capture the reversal back higher. And so this is super, super powerful for capturing trades like this. You know, every trade is gonna go slightly different. We're gonna go over that massive one here in a minute, but this is still a really nice trade to capture, you know, $400 or $500 worth of profit. Again, just trading 60 minutes in the morning. And so at that point, you know, the market kind of slowed down. I said, okay, I want to get out if it breaks lower because it could just give that swing back up. And that's where I kind of got out at, about $400, and moved on with my day. If you've been wondering what platform I'm using here, it's called NinjaTrader. And you can actually start trading with live data for free, which most platforms actually charge for right away. The desktop platform which I'm using is super customizable, and I've actually made my own custom indicators for it. But if you're more into using either the web-based version or the mobile version, those are really, really good as well. Now to go over this trade that I started out in the beginning of the video and kind of to show you, walk through managing this trade and also how to enter and confirm using this strategy a little bit more than I've already gone into, let me walk you through how I entered and found this trade. And so initially, what I'm seeing is you can see that the market had a nice methodical trend up here, And then this bearishness right here showed me that, okay, something's changed. We've broken this uptrend. That's a massive thing that I like to look for. And then also this big trend line right here is drawn from a bigger picture, where on a 15 or 5 minute, I can see that the market consistently is coming up to this level. It comes up here again, it's likely to continue lower. Obviously, if I see the 3-line strike pattern that I like to see and a couple of other factors. And so seeing that it had this big bearishness here, that was a great confirmation to say, okay, the momentum in this market is switching. You always want to take that into account. You want to have a big picture idea of where the market is going. If you're either using this, you can see right here, here's a great example of using the 3-line strike pattern for a long, is there's this nice upwards trend line. The market comes down to the trend line. It chops there for a couple candlesticks, and then boom, you have a massive switch in the momentum, continuing it higher. And you would confirm and use that right here because you're seeing an uptrend already in place. You would already have drawn that uptrend off of those 3 lows, extended it, assume that, well, the market comes down here and gives me a 3-line strike pattern, I'm gonna bet the market's gonna go up. You would have got in here and captured a nice move after that. But once it comes up to this trend line, which is a big picture downtrend line, well, you got to think of it in the flip side. I think that this is more likely to push the market lower. And so I need to make sure that this shorter term trend is broken, which happened right here, and that this bigger picture is going to continue and take into effect again. And so then the market broke down here. That's why I didn't get in up here. You could kind of say there's a 3-line strike pattern here. That for me was a little too aggressive. I like to wait for a little bit more confirmation. We came down here, had a little bit of a bounce, showed, you know, some momentum. Essentially, you could even say this is a 50% pullback from this area. You can see it's literally in the middle of that box. The market likes to do pullbacks like that are literally halfway of the move it just had. And so it moved down this far, it pulled back halfway, that's what this little spike here is, and then it sold off. And for me, this isn't a super picture perfect and really nice looking 3-line strike pattern. But for me, I saw, you know, okay, there's some movement up here, there's this big attempt to go higher, and then, you know, it's essentially in this little mini channel, and then this big candlestick here, especially with the fact that it wicks higher right here, this little wick right here, it's essentially like a micro double top. And then I get in, you know, I actually got in down here a little bit because it was moving pretty quickly, but the signal there is at the candlestick close right there. And so that's what I used to jump in on this. And then of course, put the stop up here. Doesn't need to go all the way up here above this trend line. You know, what we're trying to do is risk a tight amount and then have the big picture potential for the market to really start moving in our favor. And so in this trade, I think I'm risking like $500. The last couple of trades were smaller size, but you know, that's why you can use this kind of in any account size. You can scale it up because again, trading is super scalable. You just use and find one pattern that works and then increase the money. You don't need to try and find more patterns to make more trades. That's what kind of kept me from being profitable initially. And so you'll see here actually, once the market essentially made a pullback here, right here, and then moved down, I moved my stop loss to break even because I want to kind of tighten up the trade and get out if it's gonna pull back on me. You know, sometimes the market's just gonna be choppy and all over the place. I don't wanna trade in that. I wanna be in trades, and I've noticed these trades will work out pretty cleanly in your favor if they're gonna work out. And so from there, you know, it starts moving down pretty quickly. I'm trying to see, okay, is there this downtrend line that I can kind of expect the market to pull back to? And again, that's kind of thinking about, okay, how am I managing this? You know, as you are trading, you want to be thinking what to do next based on logic, not, okay, I'm up, you know, almost $3,000. You know, I'm really nervous. This is a lot of money. I need to get out. Or what if this keeps going? I could be up 5,000, 10,000, right? You can't let your emotions kind of control what you do. You need to have a logical plan to trade with. And so once this kind of got rocketing in one direction, it gets really far away from the trend line, and I don't want to hold through a pullback. You know, at this point, that's a big pullback to hold through for it breaking that trend line. And so I start using kind of more of a tighter trailing stop loss with kind of previous candlestick highs. And you can also see there is this blue box down here. That's a support level. And so big picture, I've looked at, okay, well, the market's already bounced here a couple times. If we come down here again, I'm gonna expect that we're gonna bounce or slow down. And This is a really fast moving, unhealthy move, which is great to be in if you're in it, but it's likely to snap back at some point, and I want to be out when it's going to snap back. And so that's why I have kind of a tighter trailing stop loss, and you can see it's starting to snap back a little bit. And I want to give it a little wiggle room because, you know, these things can break through a support level and keep going lower. But in this case, it kind of starts to chop here, it makes a double bottom, and it essentially knocks me out here. But I get, you know, about $3,500, $3,200 worth of profit. Now make sure you get my free 14-page strategy guide that'll walk you through a ton more patterns that I use to consistently find entries. You can download it in the link in the description or using this QR code. And the other thing that's really important for my strategies is support and resistance levels. You need to be using the correct tools to find accurate support and resistance levels. And in this video right here, I'm gonna walk you through the 5 keys that I use every day.